quiet street in the small town of Amityville, New York, sits a house that looks perfectly ordinary from the outside. White paint, sloping roof, big windows gazing out over the neighborhood. To most, it's just another suburban home, but to those who know its story, it is one of the darkest places in American history, because inside this house, on a cold November night in 1974, an entire family was slaughtered as they slept. 6 members of the DeFeo family, father, mother, 2 sons, and 2 daughters, were gunned down in their beds. The killer was their own son, Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr., who later claimed he heard voices commanding him to do it. The murders shocked the nation, but what happened afterward would transform the house into something far more sinister. In December 1975, just 1 year later, the Lutz family moved into the home. George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children, believed they had found their dream house. But within 28 days, they fled in terror, never to return. They claimed the house was alive with evil. Voices whispered in the night. Doors slammed on their own. Green slime oozed from the walls. Cold spots appeared out of nowhere. And George, the father, began to change, growing violent, obsessed, and unrecognizable, as though something in the house had taken hold of him. Their story became a sensation. Books, movies, and documentaries spread the legend of the Amityville horror. Some called it the most terrifying haunting in American history. Others dismissed it as a hoax. But whether real or imagined, the Amityville horror became a cultural phenomenon, a nightmare that refuses to die. Tonight, we are going beyond the Hollywood version. We will explore the true crime that birthed the legend, the haunting that terrified a family into running for their lives, and the countless paranormal investigations that still point to something dark within those walls. We will separate fact from fiction, uncover the secrets buried beneath the house, and ask the question that has haunted America for nearly 50 years. Was the Amityville horror real, or was it the perfect American ghost story? This is the Amityville horror, the true story behind America's most haunted house. November 13th, 1974, at around 3:15 a.m., in the peaceful suburban town of Amityville. The quiet was shattered by gunfire inside the house at 112 Ocean Avenue. 23-year-old Ronald Butch DeFeo Jr. moved room to room with a .35 caliber rifle. By dawn, his parents, Ronald Sr. and Louise, and his 4 siblings, Don, Allison, Mark, and John, were all dead, each shot in their beds. None of them ever stirred. No one even seemed to struggle. When Butch was arrested, his story shifted constantly. At first, he claimed the murders were done by the mob. Later, he admitted to pulling the trigger. And then, disturbingly, he said voices in the house had urged him on, whispering, commanding, demanding blood. The case became one of Long Island's darkest crimes. But the story didn't end with Butch's arrest. In many ways, it was just beginning. 1 year later, George and Kathy Lutz walked through the doors of the same house. The DeFeo murders were still fresh in people's minds, but the house was beautiful. 3 stories, a boathouse, a pool, and plenty of space for their 3 kids. And at just $80,000, it was a bargain. George and Kathy believed it was a fresh start, but almost immediately, things felt wrong. The house was cold, even with fires blazing. Strange smells drifted through the halls. And George, once a loving husband, became distant, irritable, and aggressive. He woke at 3:15 a.m. every night, the same time the DeFeo murders had taken place. It wasn't just George. Kathy claimed she was touched by unseen hands and once levitated above her bed. The children became withdrawn, whispering about imaginary friends who didn't seem so imaginary. Within days, the Lutzes realized they had not moved into a home, but into a nightmare. What happened over the next 28 days would become one of the most infamous hauntings in American history. George described waking to the sound of footsteps marching through the halls, doors slammed violently, crucifixes on the walls twisted upside down. Black stains appeared on the toilet bowls, impossible to clean. And then came the slime, thick green ooze dripping from ceilings and walls. The children spoke of a pig-like creature with glowing red eyes named Jody, who appeared outside their windows at night. Neighbors later claimed they too saw strange lights moving through the house. The terror built day after day. George became obsessed, chopping wood endlessly, staring into the fire for hours. Kathy dreamed of the murders in vivid detail. One night, she awoke to find herself aging rapidly in the mirror, her face lined with wrinkles before returning to normal. The breaking point came when George awoke to find Kathy levitating, the children screaming, and something pounding on the walls. Terrified for their lives, the Lutz family fled the house after just 28 days, leaving everything behind. They never returned. The story exploded. Newspapers covered it. Paranormal investigators rushed to Amityville. Among them were Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous demonologist who would later inspire the Conjuring films. Lorraine claimed the house was infested with an overwhelming dark presence, one of the most evil she had ever felt. Photographs taken during investigations showed mysterious figures, including one of a small boy with glowing eyes peeking from a doorway, even though no children were present, but skeptics soon called it a hoax. Critics argued the Lutzes fabricated the haunting for profit, especially after a best-selling book and a blockbuster movie turned their story into a phenomenon. Lawsuits flew, witnesses contradicted each other, and the truth became tangled in legend. Still, no one could explain why the Lutz family abandoned their dream home so suddenly, leaving furniture, clothes, even food on the table. Over the decades, countless investigators have visited the Amityville house. Some claim they felt overwhelming dread inside, while others insist nothing unusual occurs. But the legend endures. Paranormal teams continue to report cold spots, shadows, and voices captured on tape. Visitors describe being overcome with nausea, dread, or even rage. The murders, the haunting, and the controversy have all merged into one chilling tale, part fact, part fiction, all unforgettable. Why does Amityville captivate us still? Perhaps because it touches on our deepest fears, that evil can infest not only people, but places. That a home, the very symbol of safety, can become a nightmare. The Amityville horror is more than a ghost story. It is a reflection of American culture, true crime, paranormal fascination, and the blurred line between fact and folklore, whether the haunting was real or not. One thing is undeniable: something terrible happened at 112 Ocean Avenue. And whatever that something was, it left a scar that refuses to fade. The Amityville horror is not just a story about a house. It is a story about murder, fear, and the human need to explain the unexplainable. On one side, there is undeniable fact. 6 people were brutally murdered inside 112 Ocean Avenue. The DeFeo family's lives were ended in a single, terrifying night. That crime is real, its tragedy beyond question. But on the other side lies the haunting, the Lutz family's 28 days of terror, filled with voices, shadows, and things that defy logic. Was it truly supernatural, or was it fear itself? The weight of living inside a murder house that drove the Lutzes to believe something darker was at work. That is the question that has haunted America for nearly 5 decades. Skeptics dismiss the Amityville horror as a carefully crafted hoax designed to sell books and movies. Believers insist that no family abandons their home, their belongings, and their entire lives after less than a month unless something unimaginable has happened. And so, the debate rages on. But perhaps the real power of the Amityville horror is not in proving whether it was real or not. It is in the way it lingers in our imagination, The way it forces us to wonder, can a house hold evil? Can trauma soak into walls, into floors, into the very air, until it refuses to let go? For some, Amityville is a cautionary tale about greed, lies, and sensationalism. For others, it is proof that we live in a world where forces beyond our understanding can still break through. And maybe that's why the legend has never died, because it touches something primal in us all. The fear that the places we call home, the places we trust to protect us, can turn against us. That the monsters we fear aren't always out in the world, but sometimes right inside our own walls. So now I'll leave you with the question that matters most. What do you believe? Was the Amityville horror a hoax, a haunting, or something far stranger that defies explanation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this dive into one of America's darkest legends sent a shiver down your spine, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell, because this story is just one of many. From haunted prisons to cursed towns, from unsolved murders to ghostly legends, America is full of shadows waiting to be explored. This has been the Amityville Horror, the true story behind America's most haunted house. Until next time, remember, walls may be silent, but sometimes they still remember.